Up on Network Africa. Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day, a public holiday set aside to commemorate the restoration of democracy in the country. South African President Jacob Zuma survives a no-confidence vote in the ruling African National Congress Party. And the countdown to Kenya's election begins as presidential candidates present nomination documents. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers. We begin today with a look at stories that made headlines over the weekend.
People gathered in a church in northeastern Egypt on Sunday to mourn the more than 24 Christians shot dead by unidentified gunmen on Friday. The gunmen attacked a group of Coptic Christians traveling to a monastery in central Egypt on Friday, killing at least 29 people and wounding 24, with many children among the victims. Islamic State took responsibility for the attack, which came on the eve of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. It followed a series of church bombings claimed by the militant group in a campaign of violence against the Copts. Elsewhere, government and public buildings in the Abu Salim district of Libya's capital Tripoli showed signs of extensive damage on Sunday after 2 days of fighting. One of the damaged buildings is the Hadaba prison, which housed several Muammar Gaddafi-era officials. Inmates were moved to a secure location by the UN-backed government. The fighting began on Friday when armed groups, aligned with the UN-backed government, fought to fend off a major offensive by rival Islamist-leaning forces and militia fighters. According to the Health Ministry, 56 people were killed in the fighting. Also in Libya, Coast Guard intercepted 562 sub-Saharan African migrants in a wooden boat off the coast of Sabrata to the west of Zawiya. The interception came just 1 day after Coast Guard officials rescued nearly 80 migrants off Libya's coast after they had clung to their sinking boat for 2 days, though the bodies of 7 people who did not survive were also recovered.
My name is Jennifer. I'm from Nigeria. Me and my husband have suffered a lot. We have given birth in Libya. We lost the baby. That's why I want to go to this.
Libyan Coast Guard and the International Organization for Migration officials said 77 migrants, including a woman and 1 child, were rescued off the coastal city of Zawiya in western Libya.
Nigeria is celebrating Democracy Day, a public holiday to commemorate the restoration of democracy in the country. May the 29th was set aside by the federal government as Democracy Day after Chief Olusegun Obasanjo took office as the newly elected president of Nigeria in 1999, ending multiple decades of military rule that began in 1966 and interrupted only by a brief period of democracy from 1979 to 1983. The process of ending the era of military administration started in 1998 with a promise from the then head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, to transmit power to a democratically elected government. Accordingly, a new constitution was adopted on May the 5th, 1999, marking the beginning of the Fourth Republic. The end of military rule also brought about a new era of regular elections, culminating in 3 democratic transitions, and for the first time, a change of power from a ruling People's Democratic Party to the opposition All Progressives Congress in 2015. Meanwhile, the acting president has given the assurance that the federal government is resolved to do everything necessary to bring succor to Nigerians in the face of the current economic challenges. In a speech to mark 2 years of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, acknowledged the pains Nigerians are going through, especially as a result of the recession. He also listed the major milestones already achieved by the current administration, including the successful containment of Boko Haram insurgency in northeast Nigeria.
Let me first express just how concerned we have been since this administration took office about the impact of the economic recession on our citizens. Through no fault of theirs, some companies shut down their operation. Others downsized, people lost jobs, and had to endure rising food prices. In some states, civil servants worked months on end without the guarantee of a salary, even as rents and school fees and other expenses continued to show up like clockwork. We have been extremely mindful of the many sacrifices that you've had to make over the last few years. And for this reason, this administration's work on the economic front has been targeted at a combination of short-term interventions to cushion the pain, as well as medium to long-term efforts aimed at rebuilding an economy that is no longer helplessly dependent on the price of crude oil. Those short-term interventions include putting together a series of bailout packages for our state governments to enable them bridge their salary shortfalls, an issue that the President has consistently expressed his concerns about. We also began the hard work of laying out a framework for our social intervention program, the most ambitious in the history of the country. One of the first tasks of the Cabinet and Economic Management team was to put together a strategic implementation plan for the 2016 budget, targeting initiatives that would create speedy yet lasting impact on the lives of Nigerians.
Well, Professor Osinbajo also dwelt on what's going to happen in the future, spelling out what the federal government aims to accomplish in the next 2 years.
In the next 2 years, we will build on the successes of the last 2. We have demonstrated a willingness to learn from our mistakes and to improve on our successes. The critical points that we must address fully in the next 2 years are agriculture and food security, energy, which includes power and petroleum, industrialization, and transport infrastructure. And that vision is also for a country where the wealth of the many will no longer be stolen or reserved for a few, and where the impunity of corruption, whether in the public or private sectors, will no longer be standard operating practice. A land rid of bandits and terrorists. Promise to you is that we will, with your support and cooperation, take every step needed to create that country of our dreams. We also know that this journey will of necessity take time, but will not succumb to the temptation to take shortcuts that ultimately complicate the journey. We did not find ourselves in crisis overnight, and we do not expect overnight solutions to our challenges. The most important thing is that we are on the right path, and that we will not deviate from it, even in the face of strong temptation to choose temporary gain over long-term benefit. As the President has summed it up, and I quote, "The old Nigeria is slowly but surely disappearing, and a new era is rising," end of quote. And so we commemorate this second anniversary of our administration with confidence and optimism. I firmly believe that we have put the most difficult phase behind us, and we are witnesses to the ever-increasing intensity of the light at the end of the tunnel.
Nigeria's acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, speaking there.